So the first thing I want to mention here is the buttons that say get it free actually have an ARIA label that says go to pricing section, which means you're changing what the button says to screen reader users to give them context, but you're leaving out that context for visual users. And now the button and the text read out don't match. And in the voiceover router, it ends up reading the visible text and the ARIA since you're not using screen reader text. Don't use ARIA unless you have to. It will behave in unexpected ways when you use it, in ways it wasn't meant to be used. When you move over to this image, it doesn't read out that it's an image because there's no alt text, but it does read out an empty group, and it also shifts the viewport, but only the hero of the section. So now the text is cut off on the side. When you activate the button, it does then tab to the next item within that pricing section, but again, it's got an ARIA label that doesn't match the text and doesn't tell me which of the section's features I'm looking at, which is what the ARIA or screen reader text would actually be helpful for. When I open up the feature pop-up, the up and down keys work on the accordion, but it doesn't trap my focus, and even though it has these features inside the accordion as a list, it also doesn't hide the image, I'm assuming because it's an SVG and they haven't explicitly hidden them from screen readers. And these items inside of each of these pricing groups aren't in a list, so these actually hide the icons, but they aren't in a list. The strikeout number is read out like a normal number, so it reads out as 1999/mo 399 save 50%. And going back up the page, I get put into some hidden not included group that is screen reader only text, but shouldn't actually be there. I'm assuming they pasted it over from the first couple pricing groups and didn't remove this text because those are the ones that this isn't included. I'm unable to reach these info icons, so I don't get any additional information about these features since I don't have a mouse. Then I'm moving on to some weird no action available area, which might be related to this carousel. It has arrows, but I first reach the slides and I have to tab through each slide, and it at least shows me the slides that I'm tabbed on, but I'm not able to tab through the 4 visible ones and then use the arrows like everyone else. I'm forced to go through each one and then still end up at the arrows that don't have any function for me because I'm using a screen reader. The order of this FAQ section is off. I start off on the heading and then jump down to the text under the accordion, and then I get into the accordion. When there are this many accordion items, I usually recommend they go in a list so I know what I'm in for. And the questions aren't headings, so I have no way of quickly moving through them using my heading shortcut. And when I do use the heading shortcut, the floating site header is blocking the words. There are a bunch of things on this page that should be headings, like these steps, which also, again, have an image that isn't hidden. Their tabs widget sort of works, but it jumps down the page when I start navigating through it, and I have no idea what the image on the side is doing or that it's changing. And when I was having VoiceOver read the whole page, it ended up reading that first item out twice. And same thing, a ton of the links on this page are so long. Back closer to the top of the page, there's this stats area that has another DOM order issue and weirdly puts the number in a separate span from the label, which kind of gets read out weird sometimes. The footer has these really long lists, but the text above each list is not a heading, and none of the lists on this page are labeled. The subscribe forms placeholder text is getting cut off, but it should actually be blank. They have disclaimers for this form that are under the form itself, so a screen reader user doesn't know that by entering their email that they're agreeing to these terms unless they go past the form. And then because none of these are headings, I have to go through each and every item here to finally get to the end of the footer so I can finally get to the accessibility widget that they've been talking about. The first thing I'm focused on is the first item in the list rather than the options at the top of the widget. And my focus isn't trapped in here either, which could probably be argued is fine since it's not a pop-up, but it does cover almost my whole screen, and I'd have to recognize that I had gone past the overlay widget to know that I needed to go back and close it. When I dismiss this widget, there's no way to bring it back until the time that I've selected has passed, so if I did change my mind and want to use one of these features, it's now not available to me. And then finally, I'm taken to that last floating item that gives me the chat, which is a long way to go for support. Back up at the top of the page, I did have some trouble with the skip to content link. Sometimes it would work and sometimes it wasn't. And then when it did work, it took me to the stats section and skipped over the hero section. Their mega menu didn't read out the additional text for each of their menu items. It only read out the main item, so I'm missing out on this additional context that they felt was important enough to include in their menu. It's also changing the text of the button to open/close, which shouldn't be done either. My point in doing all of this is to show how important it is to pay attention to the tools that you're using. Just because a product or service uses all the right words and sounds like they're doing the right thing doesn't mean that's the case. Elementor has decided to focus their efforts on an overlay plugin, which has been proven again and again to not be what people need when it comes to accessibility. What little utility it does provide does not reliably work, and all of these accessibility overlays are not worth the problems they create. They don't make a page more accessible. In this case, that starts with the page builder itself. It's absolutely true that there are aspects of this page that are dependent upon the person entering the content. But this is your accessibility sales page. Not only are there problems with the entered content, but there are fundamental problems with code level aspects of this site. Elementor as a platform is making it too easy to add things that are incorrect and too hard to do things that are correct. Where are the accessibility experts that are working to make your platform more accessible and helping you build the accessibility tools?